Hazely, brilliant to see you again. I think it's been about a year since we met last time.
Yep, yeah, it has been that long, I think, Gary.
Wow, that time has passed, and an interesting year we had.
Yes, definitely. A few
um,
changes.
yeah. Hazely, your background. So you've been in the real estate industry for about 20 years right now. Have I got it right?
Yeah, about 16, I think, Gary. Not quite 20. We
Right,
haven't.
rounded it up for you, 16
Yeah,
years.
yeah, yeah. Sounds
And
good.
and initially you were selling for a franchise, and then saw the opportunity to create your own agency, and now you've got your own agency, Hayes Real Estate, up north with 3 offices, and you're also still selling right now. Am I right?
That's correct. Yep, that's right, Gary. Yep.
So the question that I always ask or like to start with people is the beginning. Why did you get into the real estate industry, and how was the journey?
Yeah, so I've got a little bit of an interesting one. I went to uni straight out of high school.
Hmm.
Spent a couple of years at Hamilton, and then my wife somehow got pregnant, and we decided that, or my now wife, I should say, we wanted to move home. So I actually moved home and did a few jobs. I was just looking for any job, to be honest. I ended up changing tires for a while, for about a year really, and then I sort of fell on sales when a guy sold me a vacuum cleaner. I actually
Right.
bought a vacuum cleaner. I thought, wow, everybody's got to have one of these. I think I was 21 at the time, and I said, I can sell these for you. Show me what I can do. I can start selling them, So I actually started with them because I realized the more you work you do, the more money you get. So
Mm,
being on commission suited me perfectly because I felt what I was doing the majority of the work, but I was on a lot less because there'd been guys there for 10 years, 15 years or whatever, and they worked their way through the pay scale. But
yeah, yeah.
yeah, I sort of went off selling vacuums for about 3 or 6 months and done pretty well. Yeah, it was the old sales slog, but it taught me some interesting stuff. And what actually happened is my wife's uncle owned the franchise at the time and approached me to come into real estate.
Right.
So that's how I got into it. Got into it in 2005, um, which was a booming time. You just turned up into the office and sold some real estate and made really
Right.
good money. And then, yeah, went through 2008 and 9 and, yeah, learned the hard way what you needed to be doing.
Your journey is a little bit similar to mine.
Yeah, yeah. A
Yeah.
lot, a lot of people too, to be honest. Yeah, I think if you've come through there, you've done the hard yards. I think.
Mm, mm. So when you started, going into the office, how did you build your business? What did you do to build your business?
Yeah, so I got started the typical way. Um, so the way I got into it, I was literally given an office and said go and sell real estate. Like the old cliche is, and that's literally what happened.
Hmm.
I was fairly lucky because we do live in the far north. I had quite a few like I was um, brought up in the area. We're quite a small town, so I sort of knew quite a few people anyway. So
Yeah.
I had a bit of a network and a database to work off, which is where I started with. Um, yeah, so that's sort of that path.
Right. So worked connections, family connections, and familiarities. Also, some cold business, which is probably something that you did a little bit with the vacuum cleaning, or mostly connections.
Yeah, mostly connections, to be honest. I mean, my first listing was my parents' house, and then obviously, if you can get a few more, you can sort of build it off that. So I didn't do a lot of the cold stuff. I sort of worked around that, building a network and stuff like that. I was never been comfortable cold calling or any of that type of thing. It's sort of, I don't think too many people do like it, to be honest. So
Mm.
I think I built my business the long way in terms of reaching out to different networks and yeah, just meeting some really good people along the way and able to add value to each other.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you you had the opportunity to start your own business, or to purchase, I think it was purchasing the franchise.
Yeah.
Why and how scary was it going from I am a salesperson to, wow, now I own three real estate offices?
Yeah, it was an interesting journey. I sort of it was a bit of timing that also eventuated into that, Gary. I think my wife's uncle at the time was sort of ready to move out of it as well, which was sort of, he was looking for somebody else to sort of take it over, and
Mm.
we sort of thought that was a good fit for what I was doing anyway. Um, so yeah, it was an interesting one. We yeah, hit the ground running, and I took over the franchise then, and run it like that for a year, and then rebranded and went independent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So when you started, it was a franchise. You changed it over. Now it is, as you said, completely independent.
Yep.
What have you changed? What's different about you and Hazely Real Estate comparing? Sorry, Hayes Real Estate comparing with the other franchises that are working in the far north.
Yeah, see, I think that's a great question to ask, because I think that similar question that you asked to me, I think you could probably ask most real estate agents inside their own individual office, you know. And I think for me, it comes back down to the value that a brand offers.
Mm,
And when I looked at it, and I looked at what you sort of pay to a bigger brand, and what they're offering around that, and I suppose in particular areas it's different for everybody.
mm-hmm,
But I think in our smaller community in the far north, I didn't necessarily think that bigger brand offered anything more than what we provided. And it's the same with the salesperson. A lot of the time, the salesperson in the office is doing a lot of the work, and then that's
mm,
when they start looking at the office and going, well, what am I paying you sort of my fees for, when you're not offering me any support and any
yeah,
value there, and types of things like that. So
yeah,
I've had to take a good look at that from a perspective of the office and what I'm offering the salesperson. Like
mm-hmm,
what I didn't see value in for what I was doing, and paying the franchise fees, etc.
mm-hmm,
But yeah, I think the difference is me being able to not necessarily not spend that money that I was giving to the bigger brand, but spend that money in a different area where I sort of think it got better value for money to represent the team and everything like that we
right,
were doing, you know. So I mean, little things like buying a car and giving the car away, I think created and generated more leads for the office staff than being part of a bigger brand and stuff
mm,
like that. So it's just redirecting that money, I suppose, that you're sort of spending with a franchise that's supposed to give you systems and processes, which I, yeah, they're all dumped on your desk and said, here's all the systems and processes, but there was never someone there telling you, here's how to follow this, and this is why you do it, and this is what you get. It was like, oh, if you need help, ring us. It's like, well,
mm,
yeah, I need heaps of help. Can you come up tomorrow? But they were too far away as well, which was, a big thing. So
yeah,
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 that's sort of the journey through it.
yeah. So you shifted really from having the franchise kind of providing thing to you, being more focused on helping the salespeople, almost one on one, and creating better business for them that way.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh,
that was the
interesting.
whole idea of it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
interesting. And I was, as I was preparing for this, I was thinking about the business up far north comparing to the business in other parts of New Zealand, because you guys are a little bit different, not so much in the way that you do the business, but more in terms of the bulk, isn't it? You need to have more things happen in order to have to generate some income, or good income, isn't it?
yeah. So definitely, it has its pros and cons. I mean, for a long time there, for probably the first 13 years, I think our average house price in Kaitaia was about 180 grand or 200 grand or something like that. So you take 4% of that, and you half that, and you get 2/5 of not much,
Yeah.
So that was sort of the method that we lived on. But at the same token, I always put it back down to our house prices were 180 grand, which means your cost of living was relevant to how that worked out as well.
Yeah.
So being in the far north, I think the other thing that that did with us, it sheltered us from other agencies.
Mm,
So it wasn't really competitive. There was still good volume happening, but it wasn't the likes of, say, a Kirikiri or Whangaparo, where you could have agents from half an hour or an hour away, and
mm,
they could come over and take a bit of your work and that type of
yeah,
thing. So being in Kaitai, I mean, anyone, was an hour away, and they wouldn't travel an hour for a $200,000 sale. It just didn't make
mm,
sense. So all
yeah,
of those sales stayed within the town, and there was probably really only 10 agents working the whole time. So
right.
the volume balanced out with the less competitiveness, and the same thing. You're not going to make the same money, but it was fair enough money. I think the interesting thing now, like the average house price has crept up to about 320 in Kaitaia, but already that's been enough for some other agencies to start up, and
Mm,
they're sort of seeing the value there now. They're sort of, some of the bigger brands are coming to town because those numbers have crept enough for them to warrant it. So
yeah.
yeah, it's a bit of an interesting one.
Yeah, yeah. I'm smiling when you say the price levels, because I compare it to Auckland. I compare it to Hamilton as well, and then some other, and you guys are probably, yeah, it is quite low. So it says when when I started in 2005 in Auckland, I think I was selling houses in Auckland at about 353 to 400, and you're there right now. So you probably need to do a lot more sales in order to generate that listing, don't you?
Yeah, we do. So it is about volume, but again, I think it's the competitiveness isn't what it was or what it is in other areas. It's the
Mm,
same sort of thing. You look at the likes of Kerikeri, where there's 100 agents, and
wow.
yeah, they might do 300 sales, but you start divvying up that between all the agents. There's a lot of agents not making much money. You know what I
Mm,
mean? As opposed to sort of, yeah, 20 sales and 10 agents. You sort of, you know, to be half decent doesn't take too much. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Mm.
Out of curiosity and just rough numbers, in average, how many listings do you carry all the time?
Throughout the office, or me personally?
You personal, or let's say average in your office, if you.
So across the offices, we usually hold in about 30 to 40. So it's not big. I mean, obviously, it's a little bit less than these times,
Mm,
but yeah, it's sort of, we don't have a big team. I mean, you say 3 offices, but really it's sort of only made up of 9 salespeople. So
mm,
you'll see some of the other models around, not having offices and stuff like that. But I don't necessarily agree with that. To be honest with you, I think there's still a generation of people that own houses that still do business in that way. Even though I think it's coming, I
mm,
still think that there's a whole lot of people in that sort of 50 to 80 age bracket that want to turn up to an office, that want to know where they can find you, that want to call into an office when you don't
yeah,
answer your cell phone, that type of thing. So
yeah,
I still think that value's there. And again, the splits that you're getting throughout the office, you only have to sort of get another couple of sales to warrant paying for the overheads in a small office. You
mm,
know what I mean? So
yeah.
um, yeah, um, it's an interesting one.
Yeah, yeah, and you and I make the assumption that it's quite a few other salespeople in your team, that you're selling both residential and rural, so you're selling farms and plantations. How do you find the difference between them? Because they're really two different fields of selling real estate, aren't they?
Yeah, they are, but I think that's sort of the makeup of our area. So, I mean, Kaitai is a small service town. In Kaitai itself, there's only about 5,000 people, and then you've got a greater area. So, we're the largest geographical area in the country. And I mean, we cover 2 hours north of where we live. There'll be no other agent sort of covering that. So,
Mm,
I think it's part of learning that you have to do that in a smaller town. You touched on the fact that there's not a whole lot of residential sales anyway. You sort of have to cover across and diversify across those.
mm,
I think the difference is, I definitely think the farmers are a lot more relationship based. So they're very careful in terms of who they trust, and you've got to build that relationship and spend some time. And as opposed to a residential listing, when I think it's a little bit more transactional, where people sort of just, you get a couple of agents in, you pick the one that you sort of think you get on with the best, as opposed to a farm. You probably, well, I know in fact you can be having 10 meetings and probably know them for a lifetime, and you'll still be cagey about whether he wants to do business with you. But once you establish that, it's usually business for life. So it's a longer relationship sort of that you're creating. But at the same time, you sell a dairy farm, the commission's 10 houses. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. And you, I'm thinking about the amount of things that you do. So you're still selling real estate. You are managing your offices and the companies, and obviously you're married and you have 5 kids.
Yeah.
How do you manage your time? How are you able to juggle all those different things and still stay sane?
Yeah, to be honest with you, it's just having good people. Like I've got my wife's. I don't think you'd find a more understanding wife in the world. Put it that way. So sorry, my phone just went off there. So I think it's just having good people around you. Like in all honesty, I'm learning as we go along. Even the team that I've got, like it's an awesome team. We've been together pretty much the whole time that I've been doing real estate. So there's not a whole lot more required there. There's a whole lot of trust and rapport that we've built with each other, and we've taken a few others, who have come along the way. But it is really about, some understanding from my wife and finding the right people to be involved with. I'm also sort of do a bit of forestry work. I've got a partner there that does a lot of the groundwork on that as well, and sort of just contribute and add our value where we can, and where we can't, recognize that and leave it to the people who can do what they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And final question, 2020 has been a very, very interesting year in real estate. And I know that you guys have been quite busy as well, as the same as the rest of the country. Where do you see, or what do you think 2021 will be like, or what are your thoughts about the year? And do you have any plans on any changes with the business in terms of how it's done?
Yeah, for sure. I've got a plan to expand a little bit. My goal is to sort of set up 6 offices over the next sort of couple of years, and that'll involve a couple more this year. So that's the ultimate goal. I sort of wrote a book over COVID. Sort of, I think real estate agents get a bad rap for taking commission when some people don't necessarily see value in the commission that's paid. So I wrote the book to explain to help New Zealanders and Kiwis understand the process and what's involved in selling a house and making sure that they're getting the most value. But so we're unwinding that at the moment. So I think this year, it'll become a little bit bigger. So just trying to promote that. So we're offering that book, and we actually do a 1% commission as well. So the whole idea around the 1% is to actually get the owner to do most of the legwork, and we operate as a consultant. Right. On a consultancy basis rather than a service basis where we're doing all the work. We actually just consult with them to give them the information and how they do that. So, and it's not designed for everyone. It's more designed for people who've already sold a house before, who've got a bit more time, obviously. So once they read the book, they'll recognize whether they've got the ability to sit down and do that, or go, actually, no, I need to pay a real estate agent to make sure that I'm getting the most value for my house. So I think that's 2021. That's my plan, is to unreal that and also build a little bit more of a team around myself. So that's sort of something I started doing in the last year, bringing on a bit more support staff, and just working away at that.
Interesting. So you are definitely going to have a busy year in 2021.
Busy year every year, Gary.
Brilliant. Hazely, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you sharing the knowledge, and it's interesting. It's interesting to learn a little bit more about real estate in really small town New Zealand,
Mm,
5,000 people. That's
mm,
a very interesting way of or place to do real estate in. Thank you.
yeah. All good. Thank you for your time, Gary.
Pleasure. Talk soon.
Good day. Cheers,
Bye.
mate.